And we have a few more minutes to spend with our guest this morning, Rich Calabrese of Rent Rochester. I asked you before the break about a specific neighborhood and why it is not thriving more. I'm referring to the neighborhood we're in right now, High Falls. We've seen so many bars, recreational areas here just come and go. And it is, I mean, it's a great neighborhood, but I tend to believe that it's not really thriving because no one's living here. Am I right?
Housing drives everything. That's why the East End is cranking along. It's been cranking for 10 years because there's the density of apartments there drives all the businesses. And for a long time, there were less than 10 apartments here. So it didn't make it a destination. If Pat wanted to go hang out with you, House,
Yeah.
if you're not living here,
It's difficult to do. Oh, I get it. Because, go ahead. I know what you're pointing at.
When the bar was across the street here, Saddle Ridge, and before that, Jillian's, there would be nights where they would bus in kids from Nazareth and St. John Fisher just to fill the place. And then they'd bus them back to campus. And I think of Boston, the Quincy Market. There are apartments there. There are condos there. Now, I know we have that big new unit across from Kodak, which I think is pretty full, but we need more.
you do need more. Like I was saying, with housing driving everything, I want to go hang out with my buddies.
Sure.
I want to meet them at their place, and then we can walk somewhere. That's what makes the East End so good. And I think once there's a housing density here in High Falls, then it's going to be a destination. But until then.
Is there developers working on getting housing into the High Falls area? Are you aware?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm not aware of the High Falls area any longer. I knew it was trying to become, trend years ago, and then just like Steve mentioned, it just dried out real quick, and I just couldn't figure that out. But I appreciate the knowledge today. This is
it's
great.
not hip to come down to a spot. I mean, there were great bars, but the last thing you want to do is take a school bus back out to campus at 1 in the morning.
True.
Or risk driving yourself.
And that's true too.
So, you're basically saying if we've got a lot of apartments in here that are full, people are going to walk to the bars or the restaurants, the old
I think the best loft project is on Mill Street right now here in the High Falls area, and that's the one that's going to be. That is the one that's leading the pack.
That's right up the street here from us.
Here?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic. I'd love to live right near where I work. It'd be unbelievable.
Yeah.
It would be great, wouldn't it?
Gosh, walking to work at 3:15, because when I lived in Boston, I had a condo right downtown, and I worked like a 2-minute walk from the radio station, and you couldn't beat it.
Americans pay a lot of money for convenience.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In my days in Boston.
So you remember.
Hey, Rich, can you tell us what kind of scams do you see from a landlord's perspective where they're getting scammed and maybe the tenants are getting scammed these days? What's, you know what I mean, where you're seeing it stand out more and more or whatever?
Well, the majority of scams that I see are on Craigslist because it's so anonymous that people can go on as pretend that they're a landlord, never give their name, their information. You can correspond by email. And what happens is, I'll give you a perfect example. There's a young kid that I was talking to who was referred to me for an apartment, and he wanted to be in the city in a certain area. And he came to me and said, look, I've got a problem. I answered an ad on Craigslist. I met with the landlord, the perceived landlord, and the guy wanted a $700 deposit for the application fee. And the kid, not knowing, gave the landlord 7 $100 bills. And that was the last he saw of his $700.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, how does someone like that know they're not doing the right thing? How does this young guy say, I didn't know? How do you, knowledge is power. How do you get that power?
It's tough. I hate to say it, but you learn from experience.
Yeah.
That kid paid his tuition. That's what I called it.
Yeah.
And he knew he took it on he took the lump, but without really knowing who you're dealing with, you're putting yourself at risk, and it could be dangerous.
My son lives in Vermont. He's a grad student. He's 23. And he's had a couple of interesting landlord situations. One where the landlord said, you got to be out of the apartment in a month, you and your 3 roommates, because I have family moving to town and they need the apartment.
That's difficult.
Was that something the landlord could... Now, I know it's different state and different laws, but just off the top of your head, can you pull a stunt like that?
Man, I don't think so. But who knows what Massachusetts or Boston says? It could be a Boston.
Well, this is Vermont. The other thing that's going on right now...
Boston.
The other thing that's going on right now is he's in a 2-story apartment, old, and they're all old houses in Burlington, Vermont. And he's in the 2nd floor of this apartment, and there's no heat in his bedroom. And he's afraid to ask the landlord because he's afraid the landlord will freak out on him. So he brought a little space heater, and I'm going to tell you that I'm ready to take this into my own hands. But he's 23 years old. He's can you do that? Can you not? You got to supply heat, whether you pay for it or not.
Heat. You've got to supply heat. I don't know if it has to be supplied room to room or not, but have them look on the floor because sometimes you can see where an old vent used to be, and it might be a heating vent. And And if the landlord's not aware of it, but your son is, maybe the landlord is willing to take out the piece of wood or whatever in the floor that was formerly a heating.
See, I think that's the situation, that the landlord would be more than happy to fix it, but, Stevie's just a little hesitant to...
He's a little green. But
yeah,
it's okay.
yeah, well.
It's all right.
Let the buyer beware.
Yeah.
Buyer beware, right? But the renter beware, anyways.
How much time do we have left?
We have some time,
Okay,
but
good.
I would recommend, I guess, from that gentleman's Craigslist experience, just go to rentrochester.com, right?
Yeah, I'd like to think so, right?
See, look at her.
Right. Well, at least on Rent Rochester, our customers pay with a credit card. Some of them do, then some pay with check. But the thing is, the owner's name and phone numbers are on the website. So at least you know the owner's name.
Now, do you screen for people who you let post like rentals on your, like if I want to pull a Craigslist scam on a reputable website like yours, do you guys know who your landlords are? And, even if you have my picture and a phone number, do you know who I am enough to say, yes, I want to put you on my website because you're credible? And
We've got a lot of our customers are repeat customers. They've been there for years and they're great. And a lot of them are referred by other customers. So at least I know they're not going to scam you. But I don't screen the landlords. However, the website kind of does, because who's going to pay? If you're a scammer, you're not going to put a credit card online.
It kind of
Pay for an
polices
ad.
itself in a way.
Right.
That's
yeah.
true. That's
yeah.
it. And
Wow.
it kind of polices itself.
I had a thought, Rich. I want to know, what do I need for a rental application to provide to a landlord? What type of information? Because and the reason why I want to know is because a lot of times you're told anywhere you see in order to avoid getting your identity stolen, don't give out your social security number. Doesn't the landlord need that to do a background check? Where do you draw the line here?
Some landlords will require it, especially
Okay.
if there's a lot of landlords that will require it if you're a co-signer. Like you might have co-signed for your son in Vermont. But typically what they're going to ask for is a license. And don't be surprised if they take a photo of your license before they show you an apartment. It's just for safety and security.
Yeah, I can understand
that I
that.
could understand.
Yeah.
Completely understand. And honestly, I think a lot of landlords should do that, and they don't.
Okay.
But they might ask for an application fee, and it may or may not be refundable. And they will probably want a landlord history and an employment history.
Okay. Which is typical.
Very typical. So don't be surprised. But as far as social security number, you leave that up to the individual landlord.
Okay.
A lot of the big landlords might need it.
Yeah.
But then again, they might not.
It's a great site, rentrochester.com. It sounds like it's, and I don't know if there is like a rentboston.com or a rentcleveland.com, but it just seems like it's just a fantastic way for reputable landlords to find reputable tenants and vice versa.
Well, thanks. I like to think so.
Yeah.
Anyways, right?
Gosh.
The one thing about the renters the landlords is that they're going to screen their own tenants, but the website kind of screens them too. Because if you've got a 2-bedroom in Park Ave that we were talking about, if you've got that 2-bedroom and it's $700, the people that are going to be calling you are the renters that are looking for just that, because they're going to search by their price and their neighborhood and their size, and it'll eliminate all the unnecessary phone calls that you would get normally, like say on a Craigslist or in a print publication.
Oh.
rentrochester.com. You can check it out. It's a very easy site to
Navigate.
And in fact, you can access it when you sign on to propertysourceradio.com. It is under the rental tab, again, at propertysourceradio.com. Heck, we're on the computer all the time. I had a lot of fun on it last night, and hopefully I'll be able to find a nice downtown property when Julie and I are ready to pull the trigger. I got to find a nice place, 2 bedrooms. I need a deck.
Of
And
course.
a gas stove.
Less
Because
It's a gas stove.
All utilities included, less than $350 a month, right?
Exactly. With cable.
with cable.
Including HBO.
Oh, is that all?
That's it. That's it.
It's easy to please.
Help me out.
rentrochester.com, put in all your criteria and hit
Sure,
enter.
12 or 15 places will pop right up, I'm sure.
Tell me how
Immediately.
many you get.
And we're local, so help out the little guys. Right? Steve?
I'd love to do that. You know me.
There is a tip for the landlord, actually, and the renter, both. Before you move into an apartment, take photos and document any damage that you think might be considered damage.
It's a good tip.
Yeah.
For the renter and the landlord, because it may prove useful down the road. And if you're going to correspond with the landlord, correspond by phone, but also by email, because email is time-stamped.
Yep.
And should something happen where you're going to end up in court, it's good to have that documentation. And it protects everybody, landlords and renters.
And don't always think your landlord's trying to get you.
they're not trying to get you. They just want you to pay the rent
Yeah.
and take care of the place. And as long as you do that and you maintain it, you're fine. They'll leave you alone.
It's always nice to have a good relationship between landlord and tenant. Pat, I'm sure that's why you got out of the business.
Exactly.
No offense, Pat.
I offend everybody.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here on Property Source Radio. Thanks for joining us, Rich.
Thank you very
Great
much.
to, I know you from somewhere. We must have crossed paths somewhere in the past.
I think you used to beat me up in high school.
Really? Well, I didn't get the wrong guy.
And that's why he became a landlord.
That's it.
That's right.
The site again is rentrochester.com, a perfect place for landlords and tenants to come together on the internet. Congratulations on your honor with RBJ, the best of the web.
Thank you very much.
Season's
I'm thrilled.
greetings. Thanks for joining us.
You too.
We'll see you next Saturday on Christmas Day. Right, Pat?
That's going to be fun.
Alex, you going to join us?
I will be here.
All right. Jeff is with us as well. Property Source Radio every Saturday from 9 to 10 with everything you need to know about real estate, rentals, and home improvement. We'll get you right back to ESPN Radio in just a second. Thanks for joining us. Have a great, great Saturday.
Thank you, everybody.